This video is going to show you an alternative method to bringing your Rhino models into Revit, and we're going to use not 3D elements, we're going to make 2D elements out of this building to get some documents, some plans, and maybe some elevations, and bring that into Revit so we can rebuild our building, reconstruct it in there. The first step is I've opened my Rhino file, and I'm going to make a clipping plane. I'm just going to make it at the ground floor. This is actually at the same plane as the origin. I'm going to move it up 42 inches just so I'm not missing anything. It's an extra line that I don't need. I'm going to go into a top view, and I have to turn my clipping plane on in that view. So I go to Properties after I've selected the clipping plane, go to the clipping plane subheader, and turn it on in the top view. Now I've turned the context off. I can actually turn the lot off as well, and I'm going to select all of this stuff, and I'm going to run a command called make 2D. Now the settings we need are, we need to be in the top view. You can be in another view, and you can change it to the top, that's fine, and your projection needs to be the view. Then we need to maintain the source layers. It's going to help us with identifying some objects, and we can call this layer whatever we want. We don't really need any of this stuff right now, so. You can see that under the Make 2D layer, there's a floor plan that's been created, and if I don't deselect that stuff, you can actually move it, and now we can export this as a line drawing. By the way, this is really nice for iterations as well. If you want to do some studies, making 2D and sort of cutting and trimming elements is sort of how I work in Rhino, so I would advertise using Make 2D a lot. Anyways, I'm going to select all of these elements, and I'm going to export them. And let's call this first floor plan. Oops. And I want to make sure I'm exporting as an AutoCAD DWG. And I think 2007 lines works best for this, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. I think default works as well, but if that doesn't work, go ahead and change it to lines. And now I am in my Revit file, and I am going to pin this so I don't select it. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to Insert under the Insert tab here, and we're going to link the Cad file. You can import Cad as well, but I'm going to show the method for linking it. And what was that called? That was called First Floor Plan. I think, right? Yeah, 523. Yep. Okay. So hit OK, and it doesn't import. You can change the import when you go to link CAD. You can change where you're positioning. You can manually place it, but just keep in mind in the Rhino file, like how far away from the origin it is. You can even group this, and you can move this to the origin, and then you can export this. And let's say like origin export. Everything else is the same. And we're going to use link CAD, and it was called origin export, and then you can see it auto-populates there. But if you don't go through that method, then you can just move it. I'll show you how you would move it. You need to first unpin it. So I had to quickly turn my select pinned elements on, unpin it, and now I can move this, and I'll just move this to a datum that I know, and that's why I kept that boundary level or boundary layer on, so I know that that corner will lock to this corner, and because this is all in that same plane, it's all going to be fine. So now if I go ahead and use the architecture tools, I can use this as a sort of base. I don't think importing works as well, or maybe it has to do with the 2007 lines versus default, but sometimes these lines don't come up for the pick line tool. So just keep that in mind. You might have to follow this exactly. And then you can build around this, or you can pick line and build some lines, and you can see here that this is a sort of Bezier curve that doesn't want to pick the lines. So you might have to rebuild that anyways using something like the start-end arc, right? Right? That's how you rebuild that wall. We can also do this for elevations. So let's go back into Rhino, and let's just undo that stuff. We don't need the clipping plane, and I'm actually going to go into a back view here. So I know I'm looking at the north elevation of my building. I'm going to turn my shell off, and what this is going to help us with is yeah, the organization of elements, but this we can kind of gain from the floor plan. What it's really going to help us with are the levels and the plenums. So again, I'm going to turn my lot off, and I still need this boundary layer because I want to know where the edges are. And I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to make 2D. And same thing goes, all of the same settings are fine. And now if I go to my top view, you can see that this is a nice 2D elevation. And I can group this, and then I can export. Again, let's do elevation. Let's call it 1-1 elevation, so I know it's first, and then 2007 lines. And now if I go into a north view, a north elevation, I'm going to go ahead and insert link CAD, follow the same process, and this is called 1-1 elevation. And again, it wasn't on the origin, and it was pinned, so I have to unpin it, reselect, don't select pinned elements, and then we can sort of move this into place. I know that this is going to be at the lot level, so I'll move that down, and then I can go into a 3D view at the top, and you can see here that that is on that edge, right? So I need that to be there, and I actually want to move it to the front of the lot. Actually, I can move it to align with this. That's fine. And so now if I look at like an isometric view, you can see that I have the elevation is pertaining correctly to some of this info. Or I know that this corner would actually be, and it's not getting that, but that's fine. That corner is successfully right there, right? So anyways, that's, we can go to a north layer now, and we can use something like the align tool. So that's under modify, and I can select these lines and align my layers, or sorry, my levels, or I can copy some levels up. And so what this allows me to do is, rather than importing all of the 3D geometry, which maybe it's a little chaotic and you just want to get, it doesn't import correctly, like this is a perfectly fine method to follow, and it leads to a very similar result where you're recreating your building with walls and levels based around datums that are already there. So let's bring these up. Oops. 0. I want to make these up to level 2, just to show you that that's how you would create your building.